back home after school. And I was just telling the two ladies here last week, remind me of walking back to school. There was a little story about a little guy going through across the field, crawling the fences to go to school. And he was always late for school for some reason or other. Well, they had farmers, had do chores and so forth, but he was always late for school. And it reminded me, because I had to walk through the under barbed wire fences to go through to get to the school. Well, little Johnny, he was always late, so this morning he was going to hurry and he crawled under the barbed wire fence and tore his britches in the back. Well, he had a safety pin, so he pinned it best he could with the safety pin. So when he got to school there, the teacher says, "Well, Johnny, I see you're a little behind this morning." He says, "Yes, but if I'd have had another safety pin, you wouldn't." He said, through catty corner through the fields. When we lived, that was when we lived with. When I first started to school, then afterwards I went to town school after he moved to another farm. So anyway, all those things pop back in your mind. Something goes by, reminds you of it, you know. And there's, oh my God, there's so much.
Now, what year were you born in?
14.
1914. And your first job was the steam.
My first job was when I was a young guy at home working for the neighbor. I mean, I would be there actually the first things that I did. The neighbors would come if needed extra help sometime on the farm, you know. They'd come farm kids, well, $1 a day. That was the going price. You worked all day for $1 and you got a meal at noon. So that was your pay. But even after I got about the size of 6 foot, and I started doing that, and me and my friend Willie had a crosscut handsaw. Saw them 3.5 cents a piece. Now if you cut 100 that day, which would be one heck of a big day, you had to split the 3.5 between the two of us. Well, that just, we worked and didn't get much, so I decided that was not for me. And so I told my buddy, I says, let's put our name in at the lumber mill. They were sawing lumber too. Say, no, he didn't want to do that. And I don't understand why. I mean, I don't know. But the going price was 20 cents an hour. Believe it, 20 cents an hour. 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. You had $8. That was a week's pay. Anyway, finally the guy come, yep, some guy, I told him if somebody quit, maybe we'd get it in the mill, but well, finally one day, yeah, I need you, started the lumber mill. Now, I don't recall exactly what I was doing there, but there were several things you had to do. You had to have a man sawing up the slabs to keep the pile down, because he sawed every day. This was a commercial saw mill. He sawed so you had to have slab wood. You had to cut it up so to get it out of the way, and then they burned it in the steam engine. You had a steam engine for power. You fired the steam engine with those wood slabs. And it was difficult because a lot of times we kind of a greenish tree, wouldn't be dry. It wouldn't burn too damn good. So you had to pick your woods, what your slab wood. But anyway, it went on, and all of a sudden he says, I want you to run the steam engine for power, run to the mill. Well, that was a new thing to me, because we never even had a tractor when I was home. We had all horses on the farm. Never. Well, I said, hey, I'll tip you, give you some advice and show you what. I said, okay. And we started that steam engine job, but it started out at 20 cents an hour. And I kept that job until, you know, he would buy a strip of timber here, then he'd move his mill in there, and then when that was all done, he'd go buy another strip of timber from some other farm, move his mill in that tract. See, that's what he did, see. And he had a lot of business. Well, back then it was different than today. All the bridges that you would see in this country were wood planks.
Mm-hmm.
3 by 12, 3-inch stuff was what they recommended. And then there were like I said, coal mines down there. There was all kinds of, and he had a good business, that he did. So anyway, I took that job, and first job I moved, I started there. Well, then he moved to a little town by the name of Troy, Illinois, which is next to East St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
Out there in the country, east of there was a nice trip to timber. He went in there. Well, I was probably 10 miles from my home, going back and forth to work. Well, I'd drive down there. I had to go early, an hour, to get steam by 8 o'clock when the crew got there, so you could go start. That's all. Well, I'd drive down there, and then if you get a shower of rain, when the heat come wet, we ain't gonna solve the day. Well, I had spent an hour, drove down the 10 miles, spent an hour getting steam up, and then never didn't get paid for it. The only time I got paid was when we was running, so I didn't get paid. So one day I got thinking, well, this is stupid. I go down here, get up, and drive down here, and then get steam up, and then don't get nothing. You know, I did a good extra hour. I told him one day, I told him what the problem was. Well, I said, I'll stay here, but I said, I'm not going to work there. I said, if you want to pay $18 straight pay a week, I'll stay here. But I said, I'm not going to do it. Oh, gosh, he says, I can't afford that. I said, well, that's it. So I quit. Well, the next day, the farmer was wanting to pick corn, you know. Well, it went back to $1 a day again. But I was picking corn right away the next day. I went down and got it. So, well, Saturdays they didn't work on Saturdays. So Saturday, first week, here he comes. But he didn't know where I was at. I was at a farmer's neighbor, see. So he went to my folks and said, where I was at in this place. He's working over picking corn with the neighbors. So all of a sudden I was picking corn out of a shop. They was hauling up from the field and pick it out, the corn, and then they'd throw the stalks over to the cattle to pick through it. I see him coming, so like, what's wrong? I thought something really happened. Well, what's the matter? He says, you gotta come back to work. I says, why? He says, the guy that took to my job was a log hauler, a big hefty guy, twice as good as big as he took the job. Well, he can't keep steam. Well, then here he had the labor guys paying them, but couldn't go, see, no power. So you have to stop and get the steam up and then go in. So then eventually he'd probably run out of steam, get out that way I assumed. So I said, well, yeah, I'll come back here $18 a week. No, I can't. So they left. So I still stayed there at that farm and worked next week, still picking corn. Here he comes Saturday again. Next Saturday, here I see him come again. You gotta come back to work. He says he just can't keep steam. I said, well, you know the situation. I said, I drive down there. I said, $18 straight pay, I'll do this. But I said, otherwise, I don't want to take the job. All right, he says, come. I said, all right, I'll be there at work Monday morning. I have steam. So I went down there early and get steam by 8 o'clock. You know, I stayed there for probably 4 or 5 years running that steam engine from one place to the other. the last place he moved to Red Bud, Illinois, which is in southern part, catty corner, not south of East St. Louis, back in Kaskaskia River bottom. Big timber, big, I mean, big. Well, he moved his mill down in this bottom, river bottom. And here you don't have to help move, but when I get moved, I want you to come out. Why? I said, I ain't going to move. I ain't going to go down there. Well, I said, well, I can't afford this. I said, I go down there and I have to have a room. It was 30 miles or 35 from my hometown. It wouldn't pay to drive back and forth, so I said, I could stay down there, a room, board, and eat. Well, wouldn't be making any money, you know. So I said, oh, I don't want to come down there. Well, I got that fixed. He says, we rented cabins down along the river that people had the river cabin, you know. So he rented them so we could batch in those cabins, which was all right. So I said, okay, then I'll do that. But I didn't have to pay out any money. Well, I stayed on that job for that. Well, then finally he decided, I guess, the water mill up the edge of town, or railroad track siding, which is what actually he needed, because we cut a lot of wood for like railroad ties for box cars, loaded cars, so that's what he needed. So, and I still stayed there. I was running that, got married on that job in 1937, and I was still getting $18 a week. And I stayed there, and then after I got married, my wife, we discussed all these jobs. I said, well, I said, I think what we should try to do, if we see something that we can do, move forward or do better, we should try to do that. I mean, you know, things wasn't too darn good, you know, back then, even then. I was just telling the kids the other day, grocery store where we rented a furnished apartment in Red Bud when we got married. And the Tom Boy grocery store right across the street from our apartment. And my wife goes there and buy groceries. So we made a deal with the grocers. Anyway, she could just walk across the street there at Tom Boy grocery store, so we made a deal there. So we had a budget. $5.40 a week was the top money we could spend for groceries. That was what we decided. And so we made a deal with the grocer. We'd buy our groceries, charge them at the end of the week. When I got my check, I'd go take the check right to him, and he'd take his money out. That was what, because we had to have food, so that was one of them. So that's why we did that. Well, then that went on for quite a while. Well, then we got thinking, my gosh, one day there was a job coming up in Collinsville, Illinois at a flour mill. And it was a better job. And we decided, my wife, that was her hometown, Collinsville, Illinois. And so I said, let's quit. And Saturdays he wouldn't work. Well, I was doing, not only running the mill, steam, doing his book work. Friday night he'd come to my house and all the guys working their checks and tear them out. And they'd come and knock my door to get their check, you know. And I didn't like the idea, and I told him, I says, I think we could do better. Let's quit this Friday night. So when I tore his checks up, I took mine out and I told him, you stay here and pay these guys. And I said, we're going to go back home to Collinsville. So we went back to Collinsville where her folks lived. So, well, immediately across the street was a railroad tie guy who used to buy railroad ties from the inspector. I knew him real well.
Don't believe a word he says.
Oh, I'm fascinated with all
He's got lots of them.
He seen me over my wife's folks. He come over the street, across the street, and he knew what I did. See, what are you doing here? Because he knew. I said, well, I quit. He says, you quit? I said, yeah. What's he going to do? I said, I have no idea, because he couldn't. He could do fractions on a number, but he couldn't do anything else, like send these bills. He couldn't do it. And he has trouble doing that. And I was doing that. And like I say, paying all the guys. Well, what's it? I said, I don't know. So we just quit, and I eventually got that job at the mill. That's where I started in my feed business career, sort of, and that's what I ended up with when I retired. But that's what happened way back then, 1937. So we went from there. Like I said, we always thought we could do better. We tried to move forward. Well, I didn't work at that mill, but I don't remember, very short time. But things like, say, they had two places, one in O'Fallon and one in Collinsville, but they were still manufacturing flour in O'Fallon mill, but not Collinsville, but they were grinding feeds and selling feeds. Well, you know, I got experience there, but I got laid off. I was the only guy working there. Mind you, one guy working there beside the boss. So the guy you got to lay your help off. Well, he had to do all the work, grinding and delivering and everything. Well, he had to close up to do that. Because like he was by himself. I was the only one. Well, heck, there was out of the job. But as we came back through Collinsville from Redbud, my wife used to be work at the dress factory there. She was a dressmaker at the factory dress Forest City Manufacturing. They made Morpher Manning dresses, which was top line. But she was 7 years experience dressmaker, and she had that job before we got married. She says, well, when I quit the damn job, neither one of us. Well, what are we going to do? Stop the dress factory before you go out to her folks. I'll get my job. No, you don't want to get your job. Okay, why get my job? I tried to convince her. Well, this was Friday night. Well, if the old guy she worked for ain't the boss there anymore, well, she it's not going to see. And I just sat in the car. She walks in there and, oh God, lo and behold, same old guy running the plant when she worked there 70 years before him. Well, he knew immediately, what are you doing here? Well, I'm looking for a job.
I haven't kept it in there because you
Looking for a job.
Vegetable beef barley or
She wasn't in there 15, 20 minutes. Come back out, says, I
you
got
want a bowl or just a little?
wasn't out of job for 1 hour. She got her job.
Okay, where do you?
Which I wouldn't didn't prove, but anyway, she go to work Monday morning. This was Friday night. Well, eventually that job at the mill in it, so then we stood at Collinsville for a while. She was working, but after I got going with the job, then she.
I pulled it out, looked at it, put it back.
You don't have to work. But I got laid off, like I said. So here I am upstairs, walking uptown one day.
Just the wrapper.
Feed mill in town. Had a feed mill in town, which I knew and he knew me.
So yeah,
Stopped
bring it
and
up.
walking on the side, doing something uptown. Stopped me. What are you doing up here? Because he knew my work. But I got laid off. What? You got laid off. Why, she says, you looking for a job? I said, you doggone right, I'm looking for a job. He said, how about coming to work for me Monday morning? Well, his brother worked for him. I said, no, I don't want to get in no family affair here. No, I said, no. He says, you won't have any trouble. I said, yeah, you won't, guarantee you won't have any trouble. I said, well, all right. Yes. Went to work Monday morning there. He laid his brother off. But he figured his brother was taking him for something. That's what he said. And after he got going, well, I was turning in money, then he said he was doing pretty good. He said, taking something he was doing. But I stayed there until 1944. I worked for him. And I started a feed route in Caseyville, Illinois. And feed man suggested. And we got that going good. And we increased his business. He had to hire another man because I was on the road selling feed out of a truck. And then one day, They got that going pretty good. One day, time to start another route. For the week, I've only had one route. And my hometown was Marine, Illinois.
Yeah, this one doesn't have a real picture.
Born in the area. So I asked the boss, you care where I go? Oh, go wherever you want. I mentioned, well, how about Marine, which is probably 15 miles down the road. Well, it's all right with me. Hey, I had it made. Don't believe me. I had it made because I knew every farm. Everybody knew me. Everybody knew me.
Would you like some more cream?
And I knew all the farms. Couldn't handle it eventually. Couldn't handle the business with a truck one day a week. So the feed man was working for the feed company. We were selling Master Mix feed. Why don't you put a feed store in Marine?
I'm sure he can make those.
I was shocked.
He's pretty good at making
You know. So I was up there one time, and he suggested that. I thought, oh my God, where in the heck would you put a feed store in that little joint of Marine? 500-600 people, very much places left. So anyway, driving by dance hall there in my hometown, empty, 3 acres of ground, big, right next to the railroad track. Man, God, that'd make a beautiful feed store.
That's the stuff they show on.
And I knew the guy who owned it, but he ran a grocery store. He inherited it from his dad. Anyway, there said, paying taxes on it, insurance. So I stopped at Ray Schaefer's one day. We went to the store, which I knew, like I say, I knew everybody. I said, Ray, you interested in selling the Schaefer's Park, is what they call it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Boy, I'll say I am, because it was dead issue paying insurance and taxes, nothing coming in. I never said no more. See, I said, boy, it would make a beautiful feed store. So I went and told the boss when I got home that night. Next day, the feed man come, he told us. He said, there's an empty dance hall up there to make a wonderful feed store. Feed man says, hop in here, let's go talk to the proprietor. One Marine, one grocery store. Look at that dance hall, and 3 acres of ground, nice park, big, beautiful dance hall, good building, and a beer stand was outside, separate, $1,500. They came back because we bought the dance hall. Well, then that told me I was going to be moved to Marine to start that feed mill, which is what did in 1938 or 39, moved to run that feed mill. But there again, doing better was our idea, still in our mind. Well, he didn't want to pay me what I thought I was worth, which I knew. Things were getting a little better, but I wouldn't get enough money. I knew it. And I was doing just as good a business in my place as he was. We had two. I was running one. So I told him when I needed can't afford that. Same story the other guys that can't afford that. Well, so I didn't say it. So I went on a while. Business was good. I got to have it. I can't. Well, then this feed salesman that was calling on me, or before was calling on him, also called on me because the same guy that got to know him real well, good friend of mine. Well, finally they moved up to Clinton area here. Clinton, I had Shillsbury Mills was there. And a bunch of those from the company there came up. Something about the labor. It didn't go what the business. They didn't agree what was going on with the Master Mix company, so they all joined Pillsbury, including the vice president. All joined Pillsbury. So he's going to go to Pillsbury. I want you to come up there. When I get up there, I want you to come up there. I don't want to get up there. Morrison, Illinois, 300 miles north.
This tag, I don't want you to take it off. I didn't want you to dip it in the soup.
It'll make it taste good.
Well, he went and talked like finally I got up there, 1944, when it comes to grocery feed store to grocery store. But during all that time, I was still organized the dance band. There's a picture with her on
This is what I'd like to do.
this
Almost. They make
ice cream cabinet.
I still want to bring that clock over
We were doing
and fix it.
real good.
Yeah, sitting in the basement.
Real good, I'll tell you, I had a job. We had
Do
jobs.
you remember Orpheums being built?
Huh?
Orpheum theaters being built in Illinois back in that time? 1925 to 1935, Orpheum theaters were going up everywhere. One's in Galesburg.
Oh, well, no.
One was built in Springfield but torn down in the 40s.
Well,
Burnt down.
Here's yours.
I,
But you're talking about the dance halls
Yeah.
and the theaters
Oh,
that were
yeah.
being built back
Schaefer's
then.
Park was a private company, see. Well, I'll tell you how, my dad, when they were kids, went there. So that's how long when that started, way back there, see. And as time went by, the dances kind of fell apart. They had, 1938, I had to give up the orchestra. So I organized that orchestra. But 38, I had to give it up because I was running the Red Bud, Illinois. Wednesday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, we played.
I forgot. Thanks for coming in. Have a great day. Thank you.
And I had to drive 30 miles before, maybe then another 20 miles where we had to back towards my home to play music. Now Wednesday night, you gotta realize, now Wednesday night I worked 8 hours that day. Drove 30 miles, took my accordion, you see right here, the pitch weighs 10 pounds. Played 4 hours at a dance, 12 o'clock, 8 to 12. Drive back to Red Bud, be to work 7 o'clock, get steam up by 8 next morning. I did that for 5 years. It was tough. I ain't kidding you. It was tough. And my wife couldn't drive, so she'd have to keep me awake. Well, after 5 years, 1933, I started 1933. 38, I had a total, I just have to give it up. It just can't happen. And we were never big. It was Wednesday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. We were booked every week, all the
Even
time.
31 through 33.
Yeah, all of well, Mount Olive, Illinois, for instance. You know where Mount Olive, Illinois is? That's off of Springfield. We were booked there every other Saturday night for a year. Every other Saturday night. We played there for a year. But I can say, and I did that. By damn, boy, that was tough. So we finally, 1938, my wife said, we better quit this before we kill ourselves, right?
Do you think the Depression had a lot to do with that dance hall filling up? I mean, that was the only thing to
Yeah,
do.
well, this was nice because I always had a few bucks in my pocket, see? It was, Depression was 33.
34, 35.
I still had a few dollars in my pocket playing music. We never got a hell of a lot of money for playing music, but we still had a little few bucks in my pocket all the time, see? That was what the nice part about it. But finally we just had to 38, I had to give it up. And then I finally quit down there and came to Morrison, Illinois in 1944. I bought a grocery store or half. An old man wanted to retire. And now, after I think about this, how things work for you. Well, you know, these things pop up. Here's an opportunity. I was smart enough to take it because this old man wanted to retire at a grocery store, at a feed store. So he wanted somebody to join him for half interest till he could take the whole store over.
And you probably did it with a gentleman's
Yeah.
agreement? You didn't have
And
a
he
bank
made me a
involved
deal
at all?
He made a deal I couldn't pass up. I didn't have any money. And he said, well, you take inventory, and he said, at the end of the year, whatever profit we made, I got a wage, whatever profit we made, pay off your note. I didn't have no money involved. I couldn't lose.
My grandpa bought his farm from his brother by just going into town and putting a wad of cash in some man's hand at the end of every month, and that's how he paid off that farm. There was no banker involved.
Well, I had to do that way. But I was getting what, and in fact, I was starting, got more money there than it was running the mill on there, right off the bat.
Of course.
So, but inside of 6 months, he decided I want you to take it all, so I had to take it all. But that I was good. 5 years I had a grocery store and feed store paid for. And I was very lucky, very, very, very lucky. But I was not a grocerman, I was a feed man. Well, I started Clover Farm store in Morrison, Illinois. It was not it was a different store. He called it the trading post. But I went Clover Farm system on under. Best thing we ever done because it improved business. But then my brother got out of the Army, didn't have a job. You come up there, I'll sell you a grocery store. So I sold my grocery store to my brother. And I took my feed business to a little old joint out there in Union Grove, Illinois, between Fulton and Morrison. Made a deal with them. Took my Pillsbury agency with me. Stayed there 35 years. Best thing I ever done. The best thing I ever done. And that was mighty nice. I'll tell you, like I said, we wanted to better ourselves. We did. We did. For instance, I was there 35 years. Sometimes I'd be gone quite a bit. Wife having medical problems and had to be. I was at the hospital and I'd think about my job. Call the boss and said, I'll be there just as soon as I think I can. He said, listen, you stay there just as long as you have to think you should be there. Don't worry about Union Grove. And I was, like I said, I was there 35 years, was there off and on, lots off, been off. Larry graduate, do all the kids this and that, you know, what happened. Would take off. Never missed a payday in my life. 35 years, got paid whether I was there, whether it didn't make no difference. You betcha. And I appreciate it, and I have never forgotten. And I told them, boss, now they're all gone, but before they were all gone, I told them I really appreciate what they did for me, because I did better, and that's what we were saying. That's exactly what. And I retired there, 35 years. Finally moved to Clinton. My daughter did. Finally did. My son owned this. We had an apartment there. Why don't you come up there? 2 years ago, I moved upstairs.
Well,